This is the Dog Days podcast from UGAsports.com. I'm your host, Dayne Young, and it's the podcast where we chat with former Georgia Bulldogs about their eras in Athens. Previously, we've chatted with Terrence Edwards, Keith Marshall, Arthur Lynch, Aaron Davis, Ryan Rankin. Really great interviews so far, and it continues this week with Amarlo Herrera, the former linebacker for the Dogs, and he is honest and authentic and real, funny, a great storyteller. Here he is, Amarlo Herrera. Amarlo Herrera joins us now on the Dog Days podcast. And Amarlo, you were really a steady name for Georgia for 4 years, 2011 to 2014. Started 43 games, played in 54. I think a lot of people know that, but they may not know what you're up to now. Why don't you share with our fans what's going on in your life?
Hey, I didn't even know I started out of those games and played that many. But so I'm back in Atlanta now, financial planning, and just having fun with that, learning more about the financial side and trying to help as many people as I can along the way and just provide something that a lot of people aren't smart on or have that much knowledge about. So that's why I basically got into the financial planning world and just give people that knowledge and try to spread that knowledge and keep everybody wealthy.
How was your transition out of football kind of into the business world?
It was hard at first, being honest. It was, I went back to school right away. So I was in school while I was still in the league, actually. And then once I finally got done, I went back to a full-time student. So the transition, it was different, but it was almost the same as a normal college student. I just had, a different career path first, and then going back to school without having to take that much time off. So it was a quick transition. I mean, it was hard, but it was quick, and it made it, not that stressful on my mental because it was so quick.
What made you want to continue to pursue education while you were in the league?
My first goal was to make it to the NFL, and once I did that, I had to do something for my family and to make them proud. And so once I got to the league and left school, I told my mom and told my grandmother that I was going to get my degree. And so I'm a man of my word, so I had to keep my word and finish school and get my degree and make them just as proud as they were when I got drafted.
So when you graduated, what's that like for your mother?
It was a great moment. I mean, coming from a family where, people have high school diplomas and people have some college education, but not, before your bachelor degree, it was one of the most uplifting things to my family, and just showing them that, okay, you can do one thing and, have a lot of success, but also get your education at the same time and focus on that as well.
Let's go back to your childhood a little bit in College Park. What was it like growing up there? When did you start playing football? Did you play multiple sports? Take me into what it's like to see young Amarlo out there training for what you became.
So initially, I'm from Atlanta, so I grew up in the city, and then I ended up moving to College Park. So I started playing football at the age of 4 or 5 years old, and my dad took me to my cousin's football practice. My little cousin played football. He's the same age as me, and he played football first. And so they just took me to the football field, and they was running, like doing warm-ups. Like back in the day, I think you used to run for warm-ups before you started practicing. And so my dad took me out there, and he was like, "You want to do this?" I was like, "Yeah." So that's like my first experience of, getting out there and playing. And then, it's just manifested over time. I wasn't the fastest. I was probably almost the biggest, whatever team I played for, any age group. But I wasn't the fastest, and I wasn't, that developed or that coordinated at first. I mean, so I played probably offensive line and defensive line until probably middle school. Middle school is when I started playing like different positions, like tight end, wide receiver, and I always played DN. So, and this is around the time that I moved to College Park Middle School, and it was just, I had just found my groove when I moved out there with playing sports and kind of growing up as a kid. I found my groove, so I got a little swag when I started playing football, and I just and from then on out, I think I was developing while I was there, but from then on out, I just developed so much from playing at North Clayton Middle School till North Clayton High School, where I played, DN and tight end my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, they moved me to linebacker. They was like, all right, we want you to play linebacker. And I'm like, I never played linebacker a day in my life. I was like, okay, let's do it. And so I never played offense again, really, until we played like sorry teams or until they needed me to block at fullback or something. But I just started playing linebacker then, and I just got good at it. And then that's when all the offers started coming in. We played Griffin on TV. I don't know if you're familiar with Griffin, but they had Xavier Dixon, one of my great friends, Corey Moore, but Ty Chandler, he went to Troy. They had a whole bunch of big names, and we played them on TV. And they was like number one in our region, and we was like number 2 or something. And it was just a great game, and I had a great game. And then right after that, the offers started rolling in. And so that's when, all the camp guys started hitting me up, the rivals and all that type of stuff. But quick side note, before that, like I went to a rivals camp and couldn't even get in one year, the year before that. So going into my 10th grade year, we went to a rivals camp at the Georgia Dome. They used to do it at the Georgia Dome.
Yep. We
went there, and I couldn't even get in. And it's crazy that the next year that after I had that game and after I played well, that, all the camps were asking me to come.
Sometimes it's all about just the right person being the one seeing you when you're playing well. Did you have a favorite player growing up, and was there an NFL player or a college player that you looked at and said, I like what they're doing, I want to be like that?
To be honest, when I was playing high school, middle school, I didn't know a thing about college football. I didn't know a thing about college football at all. So, like, my favorite football player was, Randy Moss. All-time favorite football player, Randy Moss. And, like when you're growing up, you catch a pass over somebody, you're like, I just mossed him. So my favorite player of all time was, Randy Moss. And, I never, until I got, into my senior year of high school, I never wanted to be like a defensive player. I always, you always look up to offensive players. That's why I never, necessarily not looked up to, but like wanted to be like a defensive player because, when you're growing up, you're just all about offense.
Well, and a lot of your youth, linebacker resurgence of them being a superstar, the Brian Urlacher and Ray Lewis, I mean, they didn't really kind of set their footing in the NFL to the point where they're superstars until you're already in high school, right? So that timing may just not have a line for you.
Yeah, and it's probably that, I know who Ray Lewis was at the time. He's a great player. But I didn't look at myself as a linebacker either, so that wasn't one of the positions that I wanted to play when I was growing up.
So you get moved to linebacker. Your coaches say, we think you'll make a good linebacker. You said you didn't know anything about it, but it just kind of came naturally and you figured it out. At what point do you realize I'm good at this? And I'm sure you realize it by the time that the college offers start coming in. But leading up to that, like, when do you realize I have a chance to excel as a linebacker?
Those first few games where I played linebacker, like I'd never played it before, and the crazy thing about it also is that, so at my high school, we had new football coaches, and I was thinking about transferring because I had just moved back to Atlanta. So I didn't go to football camp. And you had to, back then, they used to make you go to football camp, and it used to be like, almost like it was definitely like Remember the Titans type of football camp. And so I didn't go that summer. And so if you don't go, they make you try out to play. So you have to try out for the team. Granted, we only had probably 40 people on our team, but they still make you try out for JV. And everybody knew that, I was a good player, but I had an attitude problem at that time. And so you know how people already have, preconceived notions about you. So they wasn't gonna allow me to play JV. So they was gonna cut me at the tryout. But a few of the coaches told the head coach, don't cut him. He's good. Like, we gonna need him. So they made me play JV, and I was playing linebacker, and I was angry at the time because I was playing JV, and I'm in the 10th grade, and I was angry that I was playing JV because I knew I could play varsity. And so after those few JV games, I was killing it. And then I think I played 2 JV games, and then they moved me to varsity, and by this time it was our varsity third game. Second regular season game though, but it was like the third game of the year. And I went out there and I killed somebody on probably the third play of the game. He did a crosser route, and I just hit him so hard he started throwing up on the field. And I was like, yeah, yeah, I can do this.
Well, because you say that you were angry in some cases, and your attitude wasn't quite where coaches wanted it to be. But don't you think that anger in some cases is what some linebackers need to be as aggressive as that position requires you to be?
Yeah, you definitely have to play with an edge and play with a chip on your shoulder. I mean, that's the only way that you will be able to excel at that position and play with that fire that you're supposed to play with. Some people are happy when they play, to each his own. Some people deal with different type of things that's going on with their life, and they need that fire. And some people just love the game and just happy to be out there and can excel by just being happy and loving the game and not having to have that anger or that fire.
Where did your fire come from?
My fire came from just having nothing else to turn to. Growing up where I grew up, you don't have that much to turn to, and I never thought about school and thought about college. So football was the only thing that I ever thought about, and that drove me and that gave me that passion to go out there and put on a show. And I actually, football brings people together, different people, different cultures, and people that you'll never see with each other outside of that sporting event. And it was one of those things that when I was growing up, my family was close, but that football game brought everyone together. And I'm starting to learn this now with me being a fan of football now, but it brings your family closer. And it's good to see them enjoy that moment and enjoy that 2-hour football game where they can feel like they are a part of something, and that's what gave me my fire, all through college, all through high school, all through little league, all through middle school. That gave me that fire, seeing people come together, seeing people happy, seeing people cheering, and being able to go out there and perform and put on a show.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that in a lot of cases, when your family was the happiest together, spending the most time together, was when you were on the football field.
Yeah, I mean, it's happy when they doing, family things together as well. But to have that moment where you can be free, where you can cheer as loud as you want, where you can scream as loud as you want, or where you feel like you also a part of a team, that's where it's happened. Because they feel like they're a part of the team. I mean, no matter if it was North Clayton High School or the University of Georgia, when they out there, when they at those games, it feel like they're part of that team while they're during that time. And also when you're done, like they still feel like they're part of that team and bringing other people inside of that culture that you have with the team and making them happy. So that's how I feel about that.
I love that perspective because it's a reminder that, like, when you look at a roster sheet of a football team, and whether it be something, a UGA, an NFL, or high school, whatever it is, you see those individual players, but you're right that each of you guys represent a community of people that really care about this, and it requires a lot from a lot of people to get you in the position to do that. And then you're performing not only for yourself and your future, but just for everyone around you as well. And then that circle just keeps building. I want to go back to, so that Griffin game happens, and you're starting to get some of the invites to some of the camps. Tell me some recruiting stories. Who was your main recruiter from Georgia? You said you didn't know much about college football, so I'm assuming at this time when you're getting offers, that's just a whirlwind for you, right?
No, I didn't care, actually. I was completely oblivious to the whole situation. No, not even lying to you. So around this time, so after the season is when, all the coaches start coming in and they start recruiting for like the junior day stuff. So, so everybody came into school from Paul Johnson to Mark Rick, Kirby Smart. I don't even know half the coaches' names because I was so dumbfounded to the college football thing. So my high school coach used to have to tell me, he probably don't remember, he probably said it differently if you ask him, but when they used to come in and they used to come get me out of class, and I would just sit there and listen to them with a straight face, like, okay, all right, you just tell me the same thing somebody else told me, okay. And so I really didn't care about the recruiting process at that. So my coach used to have to tell me, he used to have to be like, so this is when Coach Mark Rick came. And this was like the first time Mark Rick ever came to a school that my coach was at. And so he was like, hey, Coach Mark Rick is coming here today. Me, I'm not knowing who it is. I'm like, okay. It's like University of Georgia. I'm still like, okay. It's like, make sure you smile and, act like you're happy that he's here. I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't care. And so he came, and then Coach Gardner came as well. Coach Gardner was my main recruiter from the University of Georgia. So, and I don't have no great stories because I didn't talk to anyone.
I mean, but when they pitched you, you said a lot of it sounded the same. What did either Coach Rick do that was different, or what did Georgia do that was different? Because I'm like, after a while, it does not sound the same to a guy like you, right?
Yeah. So they didn't necessarily do anything. He was completely genuine. I mean, he just introduced himself and, the typical stuff. But I didn't really get interested into Georgia until like I went to junior day. So I had to decide on who I was going to junior day. I mean, we had a lot of coaches come up asking me to come to junior day. So and at this time I'm also afraid of flying. So I wasn't going to any junior day that required me to fly, or any visit that required me to fly. Nobody knew that. So it made it an easy decision for me because, Kentucky, it was too cold. Georgia Tech was, right down the road. So I wasn't going there right away to go on a junior day. Florida was a long trip. So everywhere was a lot of distance. So Georgia was the most convenient to me. And so when I got to the campus for the junior day, it was like, oh wow, this is a different world. And me not having no knowledge about any college, or me having been to a college campus besides Georgia Tech, and probably some of the local colleges like Clayton State or whatnot. But going to Athens was a different world. And when I got there, I'm like, whoa, okay, like this is nice. Like, and then I had some of the boys from Griffin. I had Corey with me. Some more dudes that I played against in high school was with me. And so it was like a different world for me. So I was kind of like, oh, okay, I like this. Like I never been here, kind of exciting, kind of give you those jitters that you never had before. And so
Athens does that to people for sure.
I know, and so they had us at Rankin. That's our student learning center. So they talking, academics doing their thing. So I'm not listening at all. But then they come get me like before Coach Rick starts speaking, and I'm the first person that get offered that day. So he called me in his office. I have one of my football coaches with me, Coach Mitchell, and all three of us at a table. And Coach Rick, he's talking. He slides me an envelope. Like, yeah, we're going to offer you to the University of Georgia. We would love to have you here. So I'm looking. I'm like, oh, man. This is my first in-person offer. So I'm like, I'm not trying to show that I'm excited. I'm trying to keep my mean mug like I always do. But I'm like a middle school girl who get her first love letter. So I'm smiling cheek to cheek. And, we didn't tell them anything. We kind of knew that I was going to sign there. That's why I wanted to go, from only being there probably 2-3 hours, I knew I wanted to play at Athens. So we kind of gave him a heads up, like, all right, we're going to let you know what we're going to do. I mean, more than likely we're coming here. And so I end up telling Corey more that while we there. And before I get off and before we leave town this same day, Corey commits, Chris Sanders commits that day. So I'm leaving, and the dude from Rivals called me, and they was like, yeah, we just got off the phone with Corey Moore. We heard that you're going to commit. We heard that you committed to Georgia today. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm like, what did he just tell y'all? So I get off the phone with them. I call Corey. I said, Corey, you just told them I committed? He was like, yeah, dog, you told me you was going to commit. I say, bro, I ain't tell nobody that yet but you. He was like, oh, my bad.
Dang, Corey?
Yeah, because I wanted to wait out the, signing day. I had it. So in my senior class, I had a lot of teammates that was signing to big college. Well, not that many big colleges, but I had teammates that were signing.
Yeah, it's the high school signing day ceremony. It typically happens in the spring, where you get a lot of players that sign their letters of intent at that point. Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't want to sign. I didn't want to commit and make my my situation bigger than those guys who played at high school on my team with me before that signing day. So I wanted to keep it a little low key.
So you get to Athens, you're a college football player. What is that first, I guess it was a spring camp for you. What's that like? You go from this recruit that gets a lot of attention, you get a lot of the adoration, and the next thing you know, you're a freshman, you're the low man on the totem pole, and you just got to work.
Yeah, so we didn't come in the spring. We actually came in the summer. I didn't go to school early. So I came in like June. The second week of June. And so, around this time, you just working out. So you just said, and we didn't necessarily work out with the older dudes. So it's just us freshmen, dream team. That's it. So it was just us working out and having fun and enjoying each other at first. And then, some days we have the 7-on-7 with the older guys. But I mean, it was hard. It was definitely hard trying to find your way when you first get there. And at this time we had a lot of older dudes who had experience at this time playing. And they was coming off 2 bad years back to back. So it was kind of, all right, you got to get in there. You gotta make something happen. It was kind of different. It was different than I experienced with high school and middle school and Pop Warner, because I was always that guy, and not knowing if you'll have a position and not knowing if you'll play. It's kind of, I mean, it'll get to you if you let it, but we was just grinding and having fun those first few months. And then it started getting real at football camp. and I didn't even do my first college camp because I got hurt. So I didn't even practice, half the football camp. So I didn't get the hard, grindy experience like all the other freshmen, because I was out. So I came back the week before we played Boise. So, and that's when I started practicing. And no, that's when I learned quick. All right, you might not get in the game, so so you got to do something else. And with me not even playing, with me not even being in camp, I wasn't on any special teams. I wasn't on anything at all. So when we got to the Boise State week, everybody get the reps in practice, but the walkthrough the night before, the quick walkthrough is when if you're playing or not. And I was over there watching Ogletree and watching Christian the whole time, and I'm like, I'm not getting in. And so I was kind of down, and I didn't prepare as good as I should have. And Ogletree ended up breaking his foot the first drive, and I'm the second man on a depth chart that didn't study before the game, that didn't know any of the plays because I didn't do anything in camp. So it was an eye-opening experience for me, just those first 3 months of being a college athlete.
So how did you manage that? Because if you're feeling, I don't want to say lost, but if you're feeling unprepared, if you're not as confident as you would be if you had a little more experience, but you're in there, you're playing, you're starting games at that point. How did you manage that?
Man, so the that Boise State night, me and my coach was talking before the game, and I was like, yeah, I ain't even gonna play. And he told me, this is the same coach who sat in there with me while I got my first offer to Georgia. He was like, yeah, you had to prepare like you the starter. And I didn't take heed to that. And I'm like, I'm not playing though, and being a young freshman. And so once that happened and I got in the game, I mean, I knew enough to get by. And I had Christian with me who was a smart, intelligent guy that helped me out and, told me the plays. And then I had Jarvis on the same side as me that, that also helped me out for those first games. And so after that, I just started preparing more and preparing like I was the starter. Every week on out, I just prepared and I just studied. And I studied a lot of film. And I just studied my plays. So that from that Boise State game and that experience happened, I was like, I'm never gonna be caught again not being prepared. And so that just drove me to learn more and to study the game and be a student.
Man, I'm just upset that your first game action had to come in that uniform against Boise State, because that Power Range uniform looked rough.
Nah, I thought that was dope though. It was dope. I loved it.
Hey, if you loved it, that's cool. I'm just maybe that's the purist in me. But if you guys liked it, cool. Chris Burnett said that when I think it was Ben Jones and Brandon Boykin, when they came and modeled it in the room and showed that it was going to happen, everybody went crazy. But by the time that he got to the dome to play in it, he thought it looked a little silly. So I guess it was different opinions across the team.
Oh yeah, no, I like that. I'm always a fan of the different uniforms. I'm not so much traditional. I love the change, and I love, having that one time where you bring something different instead of just the same standard, the same regular looking, uniform every week. It brings a little excitement if you win and before the game, but if you lose, then people get all out of whack and everything.
You had mentioned Christian Robinson. Obviously, he's doing a good job as a coach at Florida now. Did you know that he was going to be a good head coach even back then? Or not a head coach right now, but just a good coach?
I definitely thought that he was going to be a better coach than player. I mean, he definitely had a lot of skills, and he had all the qualities of being a great coach. He was a great leader. He prepared, better than anyone that I've ever been around besides the Quell. But he prepared great every week, even when he wasn't. I mean, things got rough. I mean, his senior year. I mean, because I was playing more, but he still prepared the same way, and he still was on his game. So he had all those qualities, and he just prepared and just knew the game. And his dad is a great coach as well. So he have those traits and those genes, and he's been around the game a long time. So I definitely knew that he is and he was going to be, a great coach at that time.
That 2011 season is very interesting to me because a lot of things at UGA changed around that time. I mean, Georgia's coming off a 6-7 season. You're coming in, there's hype there, but it's still, a little wary because of what happened the year before. Georgia loses to Boise State, loses to South Carolina, and then all of a sudden there's some panic around Athens at that point. As a freshman, do you feel that, or do you feel the team coming together for what happened next, running off 10 straight wins?
Actually, both. I mean, we felt the pressure. We felt the pressure coming in. I mean, they called us the dream team for a reason. We felt the pressure coming in, and once we dropped those two, I mean, I never playing high school. It was a while. It was since my freshman year where I lost 2 games in a row, and it was most of us like that. Most of us came from power high schools, so we never really lost 2 games in a row, and so it was a different feel at that time. And everybody, I mean, all the coaches felt the pressure. They might say they didn't, but after the last, and they was kind of new to the team. This was their second season, I think. Yes, this was their second season, actually, the defense staff. So this was their second season under Ty Grantham, and so yeah, it was a pressure there because we all had a goal that we wanted to achieve, and everyone around Athens and in Athens had a goal and had expectations for us. So us dropping those two, especially the South Carolina the next week, that's an SEC game. We got to get ready. We got to make this happen. And so we made it happen.
Man, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. So you don't get to go through that fall camp. You get thrown into the game, which you admit you didn't prepare quite as well as you should have, and then all of a sudden the team drops 2 games. I mean, personally, you have to be feeling at this point that that there's a lot of work to be done, and that's pressure that falls on a true freshman because you're contributing at that point. Did you change anything? I know you said you changed how you prepare, but did you change anything about your mindset or your physicality, or was it just like going harder?
Nah, my mindset was always the same. Once I came in, I wanted to stay in and keep playing because I enjoyed the feeling of playing and being out there. So I just kept preparing and kept going harder. So, I mean, our mindset as a team was just to go harder and stay together. So, and ball out. That was the only thing that we did. So we didn't necessarily change anything that I can think of right now, but we just put it all together, and it just came together at that time.
And it did. I mean, you guys win the East, go to the SEC championship. LSU was kind of a buzzsaw in that game, but still, I mean, just to turn around the season from the way it began. At what point do you realize that you guys really are a special team? Because it happened sometime in 2011 and then fed into 2012.
Oh, man, I can't even. What really turned around was that Florida game. Oh my God, that was the first time that we had beat Florida. Well, I never lost them but once, but that was the first time that they had beat Florida. Georgia had beat Florida in I don't know how many years. Like it was a while. I think it was like 4 games or something. I don't know, 4 or 5 games, but it was a long time before we had won that game again. And we come out there in 2011, and it was just excitement because Ogletree was Ogletree. I think Ogletree first game back. We was just excited to be back at full strength, and we just went out there and had fun, and we came away with the win. My helmet come off, making a tackle in the end zone, and the crowd go crazy. So it was just after that game, I knew it was something special with that team, and when we won that game, I definitely knew that we was going to the SEC championship.
In 2012, you guys now you go through the spring and the fall, so you're a sophomore, and you've kind of gone through the program. You probably have your footing under you a little bit. Did you feel more confident in what you were doing after being through the program?
Yeah, I felt confident, but at this point, I don't have a position that I play. That I wasn't a starter again, because a lot of people don't remember or know that I played outside linebacker my freshman year. So when Ogletree came back, I played inside. So it was me, Christian, and Ogletree played outside. And then we switched. So a little bit later in the season, that was the middle of the season. Towards the end of the season, I started playing outside linebacker. Ogletree and Christian was playing inside. So I was starting at outside linebacker. And so coming into the next season, I'm back at inside, and I'm behind Ogletree, and I know I'm not gonna play behind Ogletree, and so at this point I don't have confidence at all because I know I'm not gonna play. and I was kind of depressed at this moment, and it kind of hit me during, I wasn't depressed, but I was like down and sad. It kind of hit me during the season before when I knew Tree was coming back, and I had to talk to the chaplain, T-Set, and I'm like, T-Set, I'm making plays, I'm balling. And at this point, Coach Rick had already said, so this is my freshman year, back to my freshman year, and we're in Tennessee. And this is the week before Ogletree come back. And I think the media asked Coach Rick, all right, does Ogletree start when he come back? And he's like, yes, he's going to start. And this is before a game, and I'm like, damn, because I'm like, I think I'm leading tackler. I'm the leading tackler on the team my freshman year at this time, and I heard that Ogletree is gonna get his spot back. So I talked to the chaplain, but then it all works out that season because I still keep playing. So coming into the next year, and I'm like down because this like the springtime, and I'm like, I know I'm not gonna play if I'm behind Tree. So man, and I was thinking about, and I was like, a lot of people don't know that I was actually like debating on leaving because we had Tree, Mike G came along and he was playing a little better, and Christian Robinson. And I'm like, I know I'm not gonna play. So I was debating on leaving, and I'm talking to D Swan, one of my good friends. And so we're in the courtyard at ECV, and I'm like, bro, I gotta get up out of here. And he was like, nah, you can play beside Tree. You ain't gonna play in front of him, but you should play beside Tree. And I'm like, okay, that's what I should do. And so I started learning both positions, and then Tree ended up getting hurt what Tree gets suspended. He gets suspended for 4 or 6 games. So I'm like, oh man. And this happened in the spring of the summer. And I knew that I was going to be the starter for those games. And I was like, we're going through the same routine we went through last year, but I'm going to make the most of this one where they have to play me again and they can't take me out. And it ended up working out.
So then Damian Swan is the reason, or one of the reasons at least, that you stayed at Georgia. Do you think that if the transfer portal, at least as it's constituted now, if that had been instituted when you were at Georgia, do you think that's something you would have considered more?
I was definitely considering it. It wasn't. I mean, it didn't matter if the transfer portal existed then. But I wouldn't necessarily say it mattered. I mean, at this point, I wanted to play, and I knew I could play, and I just knew that I wasn't going to play in front of Tree at the same position.
Well, it worked out, like you said. I mean, was it intimidating to have to learn a bit of a different position because your roles are definitely different?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't intimidating. It was just like I knew that I didn't want to go anywhere else, and I knew that if I wanted to play, like, you have to play beside Tree because you ain't gonna play in front of him. And so and at this point, I was coming along with, I'm intelligent at football and I'm smart, and at this point, I just started learning both positions, and it helped my game out because I had to know what to do and what everyone else had to do. And it just helped me understand football a lot more.
Let's skip ahead to the SEC championship game against Alabama. From your perspective, any stories about that game that stand out to you? We all know the ending of it, but Georgia played such a great game that day.
The main story is if Amarlo was out there on the field, 90% of the time we would have won, hands down. But no, so the only thing I can say about that game is that we go out there and shut them down the first quarter and into the second quarter, and I was playing well. I mean, I think I should have been out there more. That's all I can say about that. But we had stopped them from doing what they normally like to do. They like to run, one running back, 3 wide receivers. And we stopped them from doing that. And then they went to, the pro offense and ran it down our throat.
Well, and they had that big offensive line. That was one of the best offensive lines, I think, in college football history. And Georgia, you guys managed it for a while. But like you said, when they had changed it up and ran straight at, I mean, that's difficult to do for 4 quarters. I'm not saying Georgia couldn't have done it. I mean, you guys were a couple plays away from having that victory. And to be honest, Amarlo, I love the confidence from you saying that if I'd have been out there more, that thing may have been different.
You can ask anybody on that team. They'll tell you the truth. They'll tell you the truth. I'm just saying, but not being cocky or anything. But I played those first quarter and that first quarter and a half, because at this time you got Mike G and Christian are seniors and I'm a sophomore, and I'm starting beside Tree, and so I only played nickel, and that's the sub package. Mm-hmm. And so when they went in, and I was playing because they mostly run the sub packages. So when they went to base, I wasn't playing base because it wasn't big on what Alabama did at that time. It wasn't a big base package team. And so I didn't play in base, and I didn't play on third downs as well because Christian played third downs for us. So it was 3 of us playing one position. And once they went to that base package, I didn't play anymore. So I missed almost all the second half pretty much. I just played special teams. And a quick side note on special team, I mean, we could have won the game. I ran down and made Cyrus Jones fumble on a kickoff. I don't think a lot of people remember that, but I think this is after Ogletree scores the touchdown. I think this right after he scores the touchdown, I think. And we kick it off, and I run down, and I hit Cyrus Jones, and he fumbled. But he got back on it, and then we got the big penalty, and then they come down and score.
So that game could have gone differently if you guys come up with that football right there. I mean, that could have been it.
Yeah, if we come up with that fumble recovery, that game is over. There's a lot of other things that happened in that game that that could have changed it and benefit us. I mean, the hit on what AJ McCarron that they called. Well, we get a pick off that one, but that could have changed the game. The hit on Murray could have changed the game if they have the rules like they have now. So we can say a lot. Even the year before that in the SEC championship, if they have the rule in effect, with Honey Badger dropping the ball before he crossed the end zone, that all of those changed the games that we played. We just had a lot of bad, we had the short end of the stick.
That happens sometimes, man. That's you hear coaches always say you just got to control what you can control, and those other things outside of it. Hopefully, you've done enough well that it overcomes that. But you're right, the margins are so thin in football that those are just heartbreakers. Do you have a favorite game that you played in?
Man, that Clemson game my senior year was one of my favorites.
Because you had 2 sacks that game, right?
I had 3.
3 sacks, okay.
I think I had 3.5. What? No, I had 2.5, and then I had 1 tackle for loss. But that was one of my favorite. And then the South Carolina game in 2013 was my favorite. So those two had to be my all-time favorite.
I was surprised that, maybe not because, none of you guys liked playing Georgia Tech, but you did have 19 tackles against them your senior year.
Oh, yeah, that was an amazing game right there. We just came up. Ooh, that was a bad game for, not to put them out there, but Chubb and Sonny, they doing so well now. I love those young boys, but they had 2 big fumbles that game, and we give the big field goal at the end of the game. Oh, my God. Pooch kick Coach Rick. Pooch kick Coach Rick.
I love hearing this come back to you a little bit. I love hearing your energy with that.
Yeah, because I don't necessarily think about it like that until someone starts talking. But you necessarily don't sit around and think about it all the time. But yeah, that pooch kick killed us, Coach Rick, man. Pooch kick with 30 seconds left. Well, my God.
Now he's a TV guy now, so we're gonna have to get him talking about that at some point and be like, man, what was that? I mean, what was going on there?
I think that was the same. No, the crazy thing is the pooch kick landed us in the Gator Bowl. What? Nah, we didn't go to the Gator Bowl. We went to the Charlotte Bowl that year, Belk Bowl that year.
Yep.
And we had to leave. We had to be there on Christmas. It was funny because we was like, damn. Excuse my language. It's like, damn, my grandma gonna be Max. Coach Rick did a damn pooch kick and got us here on Christmas.
Man, hey, Chubb went off in that Belk Bowl. I know he didn't. He had that fumble against Tech, but he went off in that Belk Bowl.
Yeah, he had an amazing game. Like that's when I already knew he was gonna be great from the first time he touched the ball in Clemson game. But that final game that we played with them against Louisville, he went crazy. I was like, boy, and Louisville was one of the top teams at this time. And to be able to see him run like he did because they had a great defense. Grantham had a great defense up there. And I think it was more of Grantham being there where Bobo was like, all right, we're gonna run. Because we knew the defense because we ran the defense. And Bobo practiced against it for, I think it was 4 years. He practiced against it every day. So he already knew what he was going to do from the start. So it was just Chubb went out there and executed as well as any of those other backs that day.
Man, you sounded like fans love to hear this kind of stuff because, they think if Kirby Smart goes up against Nick Saban enough, he knows enough about Nick Saban that he'll know how to, attack him. But, the same is true the other way where Nick Saban knows about Kirby Smart because he worked along beside him for so many years too. So all those, interweavings of coaches and who's worked together and who knows each other's scheme, that's always interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, all of them, you look at the SEC now, most of the coaches, most of the head coaches have been a part of the same staff as, all of them. All of them probably been on most of the same staff at the same time at some point. So once you go again, it's difference between playing someone each year, but being at practice with someone every day and knowing how they think and knowing what they like to do and what's their go-tos and knowing those tendencies, that makes a big difference when you actually playing someone.
So based on that, this year it would seem that Georgia's defense would perform very well against Tennessee, knowing what Jim Chaney likes to do because he's been at practice going with that the last couple of seasons in Athens.
Yeah, they should definitely know what he likes to do and knowing that offense. I mean, but he at the same time he been around the program and he know what Kirby likes to do with the defense.
That's the chess game, man. That's the fun part of it.
Yeah, even though Kirby isn't the head, the DC, but he knows what he likes to coach and what he likes to preach with defense.
So you finish out your 4 years. Like I said, you played a ton. How did you feel going into the process of getting into the NFL?
Man, it was fun. I just enjoyed the moment. I mean, I wish I would have prepared more for the combine. 40-wise, I wish I would have known like how difficult it really is to run a fast 40 at the combine. So I would have prepared more in that sense. But overall, I had fun. I mean, I went to two Senior Bowl games, the Shrine Bowl, and then the Reese Senior Bowl.
Yeah, the Senior Bowl in Mobile.
Yeah, so I had fun. I was enjoying that process, and got to meet a lot of other guys that's still playing in the league, and a lot of other guys that's doing great stuff outside of football. So that process there, where you get to meet those great players and have the chance to compete against those players, it was a great time for me, and I was just enjoying the moment.
And the NFL's just different, right? I mean, the culture around it's just even the SEC's high level football, yes, but it's different both in fan reaction to it and the business-like nature of it. That's what Keith Marshall was telling us, that he didn't like the NFL as much as college. It's just really different.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, it's not for everyone, and the NFL is not for everyone, and everyone is not for the NFL. It's a lot of different things that go on within the NFL, whether it's politics, whether it's health, whether it's you as a person at that time. So it's a lot of other stuff that goes on, and you got to realize at the same time that at this point you've been given a lot of responsibilities and a lot of money that you have never seen, and you can easily get off track, and you can easily, forget why you're there at some point. So you can get used to having a lot of fun and a lot of freedom if you're not preparing right. So that's one of the main things, is just staying focused on, why you're there for that short period of time that you're going to be there.
Do you still miss football, or is that like a chapter that you've completely kind of turned the page?
Do I miss the game? Yeah, I always miss the game, but I also coach. I volunteer at my high school, so I go out there for free and go coach them almost every day of the week. I'm there coaching young boys, getting them ready, and trying to help them prepare, and using my love for the game and my passion and what I miss about the game, and trying to instill that in them while they're young, and just being able to have someone like me who been through the process and been through, the NFL, and just trying to, get that love to them that I have.
A couple of years ago, you tried out for pro wrestling. What was that about?
God, man, it was crazy. So I'm a big wrestling fan, like WWE, AEW, TNA, Impact Wrestling.
Who's your all-time favorite?
My all-time favorite is Sting. Sting is my all-time favorite. And so it was weird how it came about. I mean, I read this article I read like some type of subscription on, I'm not even subscribed for it. It's like on my Facebook that I read. And I guess the dude who writes it, or he does something with it, he contacted me and he was like, he knew who I was, and he like reached out and he was like, hey, I know this guy who, do scouting for wrestling for the WWE. It was like, yeah, I want to get you in contact with him. And I was like, not knowing, who he is or anything, or if it's a scam. So I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Yeah, just reach out to him for me. And he like CC'd me in an email with the scout, and then me and the scout started talking, and he was like, yeah, you should come down here for a visit, just like it's like college or something. Like, yeah, you should come down here for a visit and see if you like it. And so at this time so what most people don't know, I also got a contract from a CFL that I had at this time. And then I was still debating on going, still trying to play in a league. So at this time, nothing happened. And so I was trying to get some buzz as well. And I was like, I hit up, the dude name is Paul Fair. And I hit him up and I was like, hey, Paul, I'm ready to take the visit. He was like, okay, besides doing the visit, we have a tryout coming up. And it's where, we have a select few. We handpick these for this tryout. It's like an elite tryout that we have. I want you to come to this in 2 weeks in Orlando, Florida at our training facility. So I'm like, all right, cool. He was like, yeah. And then like SmackDown was coming the week before. I was like, hey, I'm a big fan anyway. Can I get some SmackDown tickets? and they had me on the floor on SmackDown, and I was like on the third row at SmackDown, and so I ended up going to the training. I think I performed pretty well. I know this was like at this time I was like in the best shape of my life, and I performed well, but I didn't have some of the technical, small everything with wrestling is like so technical, and you have to perform stuff and land ways like almost perfectly every time, because you can injure yourself real bad or injure someone else. So I didn't have some of the real technical techniques. So they reached out to me and it was like, hey, we want you to train with somebody in Georgia. And they sent me the person they wanted me to train with, and it was like, then in a few months, we'll have you come back down again and see the progress that you made. And I was like, I ain't gonna do that. I wasn't dedicated into being a wrestler. I was, I wanted to, but I thought it would be a lot easier than what it was. So I'm fine with just being a fan.
Did you have a finishing move picked out?
No, I didn't have anything. I didn't even have a different persona. And I think that's actually what I lacked at too. I didn't have, because I'm kind of a shy person. And then there was a lot of cute girls in there as well that was trying out. So I didn't have that. I didn't have that persona when we had to when you had to give a promo and you had to cut a promo. And like most of the people who was there, they like been in small wrestling promos. So they knew how to wrestle already, and they knew how to cut promos. And me not being in no wrestling promo ever, I was like, oh my God, I gotta wing it. And so that was tough on me. And no finishing move either that I had picked up.
I mean, I feel like you would have had to channel your Goldberg, since he was a former Georgia player too, and just go with the spear, right? I mean, that's always the easy one for the linebackers.
Yeah, that's always easy with the transition guys from NFL to WWE.
I got about 5 quick questions to ask. I know you got a day job too, so I got to get you out of here. Hardest hit that you ever delivered? Hardest tackle you made?
Hardest tackle was probably against Rajon Neal, Tennessee. He was running the ball on the sideline, and I just smacked him hard.
How did the sideline react?
They went crazy. I don't remember though.
What's the hardest hit that you took? So maybe somebody blocking you or something.
I don't know. I can't remember that.
Oh man, so I guess it never happened.
A few happened. I just can't remember. That's how hard it was.
Who was your funniest teammate?
I got a few. Probably these probably people in my circle too. My circle is probably funny. So Rameek, Wilson, Corey Moore, Jonathan Rump, and Todd. They all pretty funny.
I've heard a lot about. I've heard a lot of some practice stories of Todd. Yeah.
You get us together, it's gonna be one good time.
What's the most impressive or the craziest play that you ever saw a teammate make in practice?
I got two. This is Todd's freshman year. Oh my God, we're in practice, and this like summer camp, and this one, Keith was. We knew all about Keith coming in. Keith came in early. We didn't know a lot about Todd at all. He broke on the sideline for probably 30, 40 yards, probably more than that. And then Bowman tried to hit him on the sideline. He missed and just keep on running. I think he probably scored on that play. I don't know, but I seen him do that, and I was like, oh man, he gonna be good. But another one was this Trey Matthews. Oh my God, he killed Justin Scott Wesley, and this I think this is the spring of, I don't know what it was, but Justin was coming across. He ran the deep post, and he was looking back, and he caught the ball, and Trey just killed him. And Justin Scott was on the field coughing up blood. It was bad, but it was I was like, oh man,
jeez. Man, people forget Trey Matthews that freshman year. Man, he was lighting it up.
Oh yeah, he was definitely good.
Do you keep track of the current team? Do you want to put your analyst hat on and tell me what you think about the 2019 Georgia Bulldogs?
Yeah. I definitely keep up with the team. I'm not as big on the recruiting side of things because I always feel that anybody could be a 5-star or whatnot. It's what they do once they get there. So I'm not big on the recruiting side of things. But I think it's going to be a pretty good year again. I mean, hopefully we get over the hump, and I want us to get over the hump, and I believe we can get over the hump with finishing the season. So we start off great, but we just don't finish the season. And I think what happened in the bowl game last year was probably an eye opener for everyone around the team, that it doesn't matter how well you are, or how good you are, how better you are than another team, that you have to prepare and come ready to win every week. And I know we dealt with some of the same things with that I dealt with my first 2 years. We went to the SEC championship, and we just thought it was going to be given to us forever and ever, but it didn't happen. So I just hope that they prepared, and that they realize that any team could be hot that 1 year, and your spot may be taken. Hopefully that last game against Texas put that in a great perspective for those guys. And I'm always down there at Athens, and I know a lot of those guys as well. So I just hope that we get over the hump this year, and I believe we will.
It sounds like, from what I'm hearing, that the defense is looking pretty ferocious. So maybe it'll remind you of some of your era, that 2012 era of Georgia linebackers coming in.
I hope so, man. I hope they do. I just hope those those young guys get it, and then I hope the older guys who've been there and who finally have their time to shine get it done.
I tell you, it's a cool mix when you see guys like Tay Crowder. This is his 5th year in the program. Started out as a running back. Now he's an inside linebacker. And you might see him on the field beside Nakobe Dean, who's a true freshman that, just came in. There's something really interesting about that, like you said, football is kind of crazy how it matches people together. So if they end up on the field at the same time, I'm excited to see that. And you being a former inside linebacker, at least some of the time, that may be something that catches your eye too.
Yeah, it is. I love Tay. Tay because I went to school. When I went back to school, these guys they were young in the program. So I was in school with some of these. What I graduated 2018 December is when I graduated. So I was it 2017? It was 2017 December. I'm also my year, but I graduated with some of these guys that still. That's still there. So I seen them grow, and I seen the growth. And me coming back to school at that time, they knew most of them knew who I was and what I had accomplished. So I talked to them about football, and I also talked to them about, what they should do different, and I give them pointers. Like I used to give them pointers at that time, but I think that they have grown so much now. And they have accomplished so much now that I don't necessarily give them my pointers and takes like I used to. But I know these guys, and I know what they can do. And just seeing them and seeing their growth, I'm loving it. And, it gets me excited for the year. And it should get everyone excited for, how far that they have come since we left the program. I mean, and since, we left with it up. And then they took it to a whole nother level. So I'm just so proud of them and so proud of the program.
Well, Amarlo, for a guy that 10 years ago knew very little about UGA or even college football to begin with, you wear the G well, and you're a good representative for what the program means to you and what it can mean for other people. So I appreciate you making the time for this, and really look forward to maybe chatting with you again in the future, because you're a really good storyteller. And I don't know if anyone's ever told you that, but I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you for probably a little bit longer than I told you I would. But, it was a good conversation happens that way. So best of luck with what you're doing with some of the volunteer coaching in the financial sector in Atlanta. And we'll see you around Athens, man.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Big thanks to Amarlo Herrera for joining us here on the Dog Days podcast. Really enjoyed that interview. He's a great storyteller. He's authentic. He's real. Everything you would want from someone telling stories about their days in Athens. If you're one of those guys, a former player, and want to share your stories, hit me up on Twitter at Dayne Young, DayneYoung. Also, this space is available for advertising. If you want to reach a few thousand listeners that like the Georgia Bulldogs, like the SEC, we can make that happen. Until next time, this is Dog Days from UGAsports.com.